Welcome to our show this afternoon. I'm Jim Phillips in studio today with Mike Hill and Renee Guerra. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. I'm doing great, Jim.
Fantastic. Hey, let's talk a little bit about what we discussed last week and kind of give our listeners a review of where we were. Last week, we really tried to hone in on setting core values, putting core values to the test. And then in the middle of Mardi Gras, we kind of went over a couple of things that were rather unique. Renee, why don't you give us kind of a wrap-up there on what we tried to get done down in the rain?
Oh, man, that's going to be kind of tough to remember that. It was outside in the rain and the cold for the first time outside. But, you know, when we did briefly talk about core values, and I want to mention that again because we had that free offer when my wife was on the phone on the show a couple of weeks ago. And that offer is still out there. So if any listener wants to get the core values worksheet, I would highly recommend that. I think it's a really good start for those individuals that are wanting to create goals for the remaining part of 2012. It's never too late to start. And I do want to challenge listeners to do that or call in today while we're on the show and ask us some questions about that. I think it'd be great to find out a little bit more about the core values. And we talked about core values. One particular for me is adventure. And, you know, last week when we were outside at the Waxahachie Mardi Gras, you know, one of the things about core values was my adventure part of being outside was it was awesome, being out in the public. So, you know, that kind of fits in with wanting to do stuff that's outside the box for me.
That free white page is available if you were kind enough to drop us your email address at info@kbec.com. If you go onto our homepage, you'll see on the left-hand side a banner that simply says Success Guys. Click on that, and it'll automatically pull up in your browser the addresses for Mike and for Renee, and as well as us here at the station. And that is probably a value of about $75 for our listeners, so you can put that in perspective. If you were to go to a seminar and ask somebody to participate or to participate in a life coach's seminar, they're going to charge you $75 to $100 to begin to really focus in on 100% accountability as well as your core values. So Renee's very generous in offering that to our listeners for free, and I would encourage you to take advantage of that. Get that white paper and then even forward it to Renee and let him give you some feedback in terms of what his thoughts are when you put those core values together. This show, we're going to focus in on finances and living and having a life purpose. And life purpose is one of those things that, much like a business, when you talk about a mission statement, this is kind of the broad scale deal in terms of what it is you want your life to go. And to that end, I'm going to throw the first question out to Renee again. What is life purpose and how do you find it? How do you go about trying to develop it?
Well, Jim, you know, sometimes many of us go through life thinking that there's something that we're meant on earth to do. And so if you're in a position now, if you're out there listening as you're driving around, you say, I can't really stand where my life is right now. I wish I could do something about it. Or you have a hobby that you'd like to turn into a business. I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and they're like, you know, right now is the worst time to start a business. But, you know, again, don't let that kind of squash your dreams and goals of what you want to build. So creating a life purpose is basically finding something that really inspires you, fires you up inside, where you have this glowing passion of wanting to do something. So we find that once you identify that life purpose, life becomes a little bit easier. It's much like a compass that keeps you on track to success and fulfillment. It also affects your career, business, your finance, relationships, health and fitness, personal, fun time and recreation, and contribution and legacy. And those are the 7 areas that I've been meaning to mention on the show quite a bit, because those are the things that are important to all of our lives. And when you're clear on why you're here, so basically if you're clear on what you're on this earth to do, things flow more easily, opportunities arise out of nowhere, and the right people show up at the right time. And when you're clear about your purpose, also, sometimes it's not even about finding the right job. You can just live your purpose by volunteering at certain places in the community. It's just an important part of someone trying to find out or identify, basically, what they're here on this earth to do.
Mike, how does life purpose relate to finance? How do you turn life purpose into a budget? How do you turn it into something meaningful when it comes to the money side of the equation?
Well, first of all, thank you for asking me about the money side of the equation, because with Renee, I'm going to always give all life purpose and destiny and everything else, the driving force behind your life. I'm going to just have to volleyball those up to Renee to smash down. But what I can kind of focus on, being the finance advisor on the show, and what I kind of deal with the clients, because we were kind of thinking about this before the show. We're going to deal with life purpose today. And point blank, what I try to tell people, okay, if you have that life purpose, maybe to use Renee and his biking background, is that, you know, you have Lance Armstrong. His life purpose isn't just to win the Tour de France and to be this big figure. It was to make people aware that you can survive cancer, start the fund that he has started, and go out there and make a difference. I would say that is his new life purpose, is Live Strong, for example. And he found that through something that he loved to do, cycling. When you're investing, I ask people, what is the purpose of this money? Quite frankly, maybe it's not life purpose investing, but what's the purpose? Why are we doing this? Why do you want to invest? And of course, I always hear the feedback, and I set myself up for it. Well, I want to be rich, Mike. But this is what I think is very interesting, and this is kind of what hit me when we were talking about it. If somebody comes to me, Mike, I want to be wealthy, I want to have this. My question back to them, okay, why? Why do you want to be wealthy? And you know what you're going to find? It was funny how this kind of directed back to Renee's part of the equation, how it helps you find your life purpose. Why do you want to be wealthy? Well, okay, I would love for my kids to go to any college that they want. Bingo. Right there, without even telling or without even writing it down on a piece of paper, you just figured out your life purpose. Your life purpose is maybe for your kids to have a quote-unquote better life than what you had.
So the purpose of that money in the equation that you just brought up really isn't for that person to achieve more success and more of their personal finance. What they want to do is they want to be able to put a fund aside or money aside to make sure that their children have a better life. So the life purpose isn't, hey, I want more money. The life purpose is, I really want my children to have a better education. So consequently, that really takes a different mindset, I would assume, in a financial plan. Because I know in some cases in a financial plan, you might suggest a 529 plan, or you might suggest other type of venues. So the point I'm trying to make is that's digging down and really determining, is there an underlying purpose here, or are you telling me everything just by, hey, I want to be rich?
And if I can interject, sorry, Renee,
yeah.
is that when you're talking about the life purpose, I think the whole reason for the show and this whole reason for people like Renee that are such highly qualified and sought after coaches is because people are trying to do a change. And then that's when I ask people, what's the purpose of this money when we invest? And it sounds asinine, but I'm just going to be brutally honest. When you come to my office, probably like when they come to Renee's, if you're doing the same investing year after year after year after year, why would you expect it to be any different? Same thing with your life. If you're living the same way year after year after year after year, why would you expect a different result? Those who don't learn from history are destined to repeat it. So
the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. Sure.
So that's, with the life purpose in general, that's when I really hit upon people. We need to start looking at different avenues to invest besides just what you've been taught for the past 30, 40, 50 years, because there's only two things that you've been doing, stocks or bonds. There's other things out there. So to get back to Renee, to talk more about the life purpose and how that fits.
Well, I was going to tie in on Mike's comment about the purpose of the money, because, you know, when you're looking at, I mentioned it on the 7 areas about the contribution and legacy. So it may not be just being rich, like you mentioned, Mike. We were talking a little bit before the show, but, you know, what do people want to create as far as having that money? Is there some type of funding they want to do for children, for handicapped children, or disabled veterans, or those types of things? What kind of legacy do they want to create? Do they want to have a home built for someone? I mean, there's all kinds of things that ties into that. So that purpose could be, again, fulfilled. When I mentioned that about living your purpose, you can live it in any aspect of it. It doesn't have to just necessarily be a job. But, you know, again, going back to the beginning of what I'm saying about finding your life purpose, it's finding that inner compass that steers you to what makes you happy in life.
We talked about the what, now the why. Why is it important to do this? Why does it really make a difference in your life day in and day out? And I know you've kind of hit on it here a little bit, but I still want to get, I guess, to the core. Because too many times, you know, and we've seen this over the last 3 or 4 weeks with our listeners when we kind of challenged them to do these exercises and to look at them themselves. Why do you think people say, oh, this is not something I want to do? Why does the brick wall come up and they just never get it done?
I think, for the most part, I think it's fear. I think people can get stuck. We've mentioned that on the show many times, but, you know, everybody has an idea of, God, I wish my life was better. I wish I could do this. But the idea is just taking action. We've mentioned that on the show quite a bit, taking action to live the life they want. Now, there's a good book out there that I've read, which is called The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. Excellent book. Gives you some ideas on creating a life purpose.
Can you give me that title again? I missed that real quick.
It's called The Purpose-Driven Life.
Very good book.
By Rick Warren. Excellent book. And you can Google Purpose-Driven and find that book online. But, it just talks about, he goes into a little spirituality on that. But, when you're hitting on all 8 cylinders and you're just firing on 6 and you're not happy with where you're at in life, and you want to get those other 2 cylinders going, I think it makes a big difference. For me, I was in a 21-year career in a national soft drink company, and I kept just going to the office thinking there's just got to be something better for me. I kept getting promoted into different positions, and it was just outside of my comfort zone. Not say comfort zone, but just really was something I wanted. It just wasn't what I wanted to do.
What was it then in your life that spurred you to readjust and look at your purpose in life?
I actually hired a coach and started taking the tools that I'm talking about now, about finding a life purpose, and taking and writing down the things that I really loved to do, what inspired me, what gave me passion in my life. And so I started writing a list down of things that I wanted to do. In other words, like coaching people. It's one of the things I've always enjoyed in the 15 years of being in an HR environment. And how could I take that outside of a corporation and make a lifestyle out of that? So,
was there one element, though? I mean, did you just suddenly wake up one day and say, hey, I don't have a life purpose? Or is this one of those things that over a period of time you realized that there wasn't a compass in your life?
I think it wasn't a compass in my life. I think for me it was going through identifying why I was so unhappy in some areas of my life, and just started to reevaluate the process of going through a workbook, going through some of the core values like we're offering the free to the listeners, and just really evaluating that. If I were to write 5 things down about what do I really love to do, when am I most happy, and what inspires me to get up every day, and start just really writing the answers down. I can make about 4 or 5 or 15 of those top comments. And let's say I like to ride my bike, or I like coaching people, or I just love working one-to-one with individuals. You start categorizing those and say, okay, out of those 15, which ones do I like the best? And come up with 5.
Sure. Mike, you had something to add?
Well, I was listening to Renee, and it's becomes obvious after you've gone through something with that internally. I've kind of had the same thing that's happened in my life where the spark just hits. But, it's going to sound almost condescending, but financial decisions, being the financial advisor on the show, that's kind of what my focus of expertise is. You would be shocked at how easier, I know people out there driving are going to be laughing when I say this, how much easier life, but financial decisions become when you have a purpose that you are doing with this money. What I mean by that, it's such an energy drain when you're always having to chase after that next big return, that next big thing. I've got to make it work this way because I have so much debt now. I have so many people that do really well, that have high 6-figure incomes for some of my clients. My point is, and then some of them I have with $50,000 or only $10,000 a year, or maybe they're a volunteer. My point is I have some of these clients that maybe don't have a life purpose, and what they're trying to fulfill in their own lives, their own core values, without setting aside something that just drives them every day, is they'll go out and buy the big toys. Well, what happens when you buy the big toys? And all our listeners probably know somebody down the block that, Bob's got a new boat again.
9 times out of 10, you take on the big debt.
Yeah, you take on the big debt, and what's happening is you're chasing it and chasing it and chasing it and chasing it. And what happens is you're left unfulfilled. You ask them, they'll never tell you to your face, but if you're really good friends with them, they'd probably tell you, it's great to have that nice car in the driveway, but you sure should see the car payments, ha, ha, ha. My point is not having a purpose, not having something that our money is to be used for, to be invested for, that makes a difference on whatever your life purpose is. Once you figure that out, I can't stress that enough. And even in my own life, it's a cliche. The roses smell better. The air feels better. I mean, you're not chasing after that end game all the time. It's about what you're doing with the money that fulfills you.
Hey, listeners, if you're out there, I'm going to challenge you. Please give Renee and Mike a call here at the studio today, 972-923-1390 or 972-938-1390. If you're out there wondering how to set your own personal goals, if you've got questions about what to do when it comes to core values, if you've develop some uncertainties in your life, whatever, please give us a call. We're here to help you at 972-923-1390 or 972-938-1390. We'll be more than happy to take your phone calls anytime during the show, or please feel free to write us at info@kbec.com during the week, and we want to hear from you. We want to be able to make this a show where you have the input, you give us the direction, you tell us what information is at the forefront of your mind and what you're feeling uncomfortable about, or what you want some help to improve your lives, because that's what we're here for. We're here to try and make your everyday life and decisions that you're making in your life more fulfilling and helpful. And to that, I thank Renee and Mike for taking their times out on Saturday afternoons and trying to share it with our listeners. So, hey, guys, before we go to break, I want to hit on this one more time, and we've kind of talked about it briefly. The whole idea of what does a purpose-driven life really look like? How does it make you feel? How does it give you fulfillment? Can you help me with that a little bit, Renee? Tell me what this exercise is going to make me feel like at the end of the day.
Well, when you find your life purpose, it's exciting. I think when people finally figure out what they want to do in their lives and what really, like as I mentioned about the 8 cylinders, and just everything just starts firing. People and places and things just start showing up, and I'll just use this radio show as a way of as an example. I got to meet you at a networking group, met Mike through a networking group, and here we are talking today about trying to help people with their lives, and that is part of being part of living in your purpose. We wanted to help the listeners, and so those types of things start showing up in people's lives when they're living their purpose. I think it's just they're excited. They want to be able to provide the best they can to anybody else's life and make a big contribution to the world.
Mike?
Well, I'm right there with Renee. My whole purpose growing up is when I read The Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was 22 years old. If you don't have that book by Robert Kiyosaki, thank you, can never pronounce the last name. I basically lived it. If you didn't hear on the first show, I grew up with a single mother, 3 sisters. I was the oldest. We didn't have a lot to live on, et cetera, but we were very happy. And my dad, he was in the business, but he was the typical 80s broker. He was working 60, 70 hours a week. It was all about those things I was talking about earlier. I want to have this, have that. And I saw from a very early age that there's a fine medium there. There's nothing wrong with hard work, but you got to have that balance. So definitely, in my life, a life purpose was something that I think I was lucky to find at a very young age, and it's to give back, and it's to help those people that maybe don't have the people that are able to help them.
Well, plus, too, Mike, I think, too, like you said, it can take some time for people to find their life purpose, but the thing is to never give up. So it may be stepping stones, little bitty stepping stones that you have to take to find that life purpose. You may have to take a class or a course or just learn something different, and sometimes even go into 4-year college. And
sign up for stuff.
Exactly. Get a degree, and they change, So
This is a perfect lead in here, gang. I want to give everybody an opportunity here to actually participate with Renee. And he's going to have a seminar here coming up in the next couple of days, or in the next 2 weeks, and it will be called Changing Your Life One Day at a Time, and it's presented by Renee Guerra from KBEC 1390's Life and Money Matters with the Success Guys. Before you can change your life, you must first change your thinking. This 4-hour workshop will give you the tools to help you change your life by applying the principles learned. If you ask yourself the following questions, then this workshop is for you. What is my purpose in life? Do you want to improve your life, your career, and relationships? Do you want to expand your opportunities, create new alliances, help more people, and get more out of your goals? What is holding me back from reaching my goals? How should I write my goals? What happens when I get off course in reaching my goals? How can I improve my relationship with my family, friends, or coworkers? This seminar will talk about taking 100% responsibility for your life, stopping the blame game, creating life's purpose statements, and defining exactly what you want in your life. Why are you here? Create goals for 2012. Space is limited to 40, so sign up before March 17th and receive a fantastic offer of just $75 for this informative workshop. Prices will be $99.97 after March 7th, so sign up now. To sign up, you can simply call 1-800-333-3030 or you can look online at kbec.com, and we will have more information. This workshop will be held at the Waxahachie Civic Center on March 10th from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., and is brought to you by Renee Guerra. Thank you, gang, and we'll be back in a couple of seconds here. Good afternoon. Welcome back to Life and Money Matters with the Success Guys. We're in studio. I'm Jim Phillips with Renee Guerra and Mike Hill. I want to encourage our listeners to give us a call at 972-923-1390 or 972-938-1390. If you've got any questions out there about how to set your personal goals, how to set core values, or if you're just wondering what life purpose really should mean to each one of you. We've kind of touched on those three areas over the last couple of weeks and have had some good discussions and dialogues among ourselves, but we're always interested in hearing from our listeners in terms of what you're doing out there to try and set your own life purposes. To that end, right before break, we had thrown out the question, what does a purpose-driven life look like? Renee had kind of got into that a little bit, but Mike, I'm going to let you address that from the finance side and the money side.
Well, we kind of touched a little bit on the purpose-driven life. If you're going to invest that way, you got to have purposes. What's your purpose for why you're investing? And not just, I gave the example of saving for a children's college, but maybe it's to have a retirement, or maybe it's to make sure that you leave a legacy when you pass. And what is that legacy going to be? What is it going to mean? What are you going to do for your wife? What happens if something was to happen to you unexpectedly? I mean, men in general, we don't like to think about, we won't be on this planet one day. We have these big egos. We're going to live forever. But I can tell you, you can call it a pro or a con from being in this business. I have worked with many a widow that didn't plan on being a widow at that young of an age. So those are the things I want to get across with the radio show and also with the purpose-driven life, is have a purpose, security. Maybe that's your purpose, to make sure your family is always secure, to make sure you're able to do the things, the trips that you want to take on. And I'm not talking, going to Tahiti like the Schwab commercial would show you, or whatever, having your own vineyard, as I joke about that. I'm talking about, what is your purpose in life? Okay, maybe it isn't because you don't have kids. Maybe you don't have a husband. But maybe your purpose is your animals. Maybe you have horses. Okay, what are you doing to get more involved with horse? Whatever that purpose is, figure it out, and let's put aside something, and let's make a plan. And another part of that plan is, by gosh, start thinking about different ways to invest than what you've been doing in the past. Because if it keeps, again, I go over it, but if you're trying to achieve your life purpose, you cannot invest the way that you've been investing. You've got to be willing to not only change your life, but then change your thinking on how to achieve those goals.
How does debt enter into that equation?
Debt absolutely is a life purpose killer, for lack of a better word. It's an energy drain. It is such an energy drain. It's not just, forget the financial part of it, to try to pay off that debt, to have that hanging over you at all times. I get people all the time that have a 401k. And they'll come into my office, and they just took out $30,000, $40,000 to pay off debt. And I said, do you realize, because you're younger than 59 and a half, you probably only got 75 to 70 cents on the dollar of that money. You took out 40, and the net effect was only 30 because of taxes.
They pulled the 30 to 40 out of their 401k.
Out of their 401k, okay, because they had so much debt, or they felt that maybe this is something that I can use to go out and achieve these goals. Well, just know, every time you take money out of your 401k or out of your IRA accounts, you're looking at only getting 70, 75. That's on the good side. If you're in a higher tax bracket, it's more than that. But you're only getting 70 cents on the dollar. And when I sit there, and it seems simple, but when I tell people that, they go, wait a second. I wanted to go buy this boat, and I got a great deal, Mike. It's only $20,000. I'm serious. I've had this happen. I was going to take it out of my 401k. Okay, that boat's not $20,000. That boat is $28,000. Well, how you figure? You're going to be paying, you're going to have to take out $28,000 out of your 401k to net $20,000. If you look at it that way,
yes,
you'll take, but that's...
They're not looking at the tax consequences.
Absolutely.
They're looking at the short term, the loss of return of that money growing in the future.
They're looking at the double engines, 21 feet, on the dock in Lake Louisville, which I don't blame them. That's everybody's dream, but just let's have a plan to pay for it is all I'm saying.
Gotcha.
Well, I got a question for you, Mike. I like that, too, because let's say someone takes money out of their 401k for education. Is that something that you would say, or to learn something? Because we're talking about purpose here.
No, you're absolutely, and you can trip me up with that one, because if it's for a child's education, that's one of the 3 ways you don't have to pay the 10% penalty on a 401k withdrawal. But anyway, go ahead.
No. Yeah, I'm just thinking outside the box here. Let's say one of our listeners is out there driving around and said, God, I'm sick of this job or sick of where I'm at, and I might want to take a course, and it's going to run me about $8,000 to be a nurse because that's what I really want to do in my life, or some other profession. And that's what they have to use. Because it's rather than taking out a student loan or something like that. But I'm trying to put
absolutely. That's a big issue. Let's start with that question. The first thing I would tell, and I definitely, please, listeners, if you have these kind of questions, call in or email us, because I love these kind of questions, because these are questions that are happening to everyday people. If you have that urge, or that you go through Renee's class, you discover your life purpose. It's to help people. It's to become a nurse, or it's to do this, or it's to do that, to have passion at my job. Okay, now we have to pay for it. The last resort, I'll be honest with you, would be take out of your retirement funds. But I am not going to tell people not to pursue their dream if that's their only recourse. Now, that being said, if that's something that you want to do, let's set a goal for it. Maybe we don't put as much, if you know that's going to happen in the future, maybe you don't put as much into your 401k, and we start putting monies in an after-tax account, so knowing that you're going to have that withdrawal in 6-9 months to a year.
Well, that's the whole rainy day fund thing, too, that so many people don't have set aside. The old adage used to be 3 months of income in case you lose your job, and I heard recently that those numbers are now up to, really, if you long-term probably should have a year's worth of savings. And I know a lot of people out there looking around at themselves right now going, there's no way.
Come on.
I can get a year's worth of savings. But at the same token, if there is a dream that you have out there, the idea is don't make the dream into an immediate need. Turn that dream into something that you're going to plan for. Begin to put money aside before it gets to that point where you've got to make that immediate decision on which way to go. So
absolutely.
Plan for change, plan for change, plan for change.
Pay for it like you're already going. Pay for it like you already have the tuition signed up for. I mean, if you know that it's going to cost you $8,000, and in 10 months you put $800 a month aside, it's paid for.
Sure.
Again, I mean, it sounds simplistic, but you got to make sacrifices.
Well, I'll bring that up too because of the U.S. Postal Service announced that I think it said they're going to lay off about 27,000 people. If I read that right.
Exactly.
And so you have a lot of people out there that may start looking, said, hey, I've got to really start. I have an opportunity to change my life here. And that's why I threw that question out to you, Mike, is just to say, hey, what are the options out there for those folks that may not have that immediate cash?
Well, and the reality in today's business world and today's life is that you will go through a minimum of 3 major job changes within your lifespan. And where those 3 job changes come from are going to be up to you. Nobody's going to come up to you and say, hey, I've got this wonderful job for you. And if they do, go run them with both feet. So you've got to really plan for the future. And, as Mike was sharing, if you don't have that vision, if you don't have those dollars set aside, that just puts all the more pressure on you when it comes time to make those decisions. How many of those postal workers thought they'd be lifetime postal workers? Probably every single one of them. And the reality is now, after 15 years, they're out on the workforce, and they've got to find something new to do with their life. They've got to find a new purpose. They've got to find a new passion that's going to help take them to the next level. Brings us to another great question, and part 2 of kind of what we were talking about, Ray and Nay, and that is, what on earth am I here for? Why am I here? What is it that Jim Phillips or Mankind
question?
Real light question, exactly. Hey, he put it down on the questions and answers. All I'm doing is giving them back to him. So,
I think many of us ask that question of ourselves: is what are we here for? And that is the focal point of finding your life purpose, because so many of us go through life asking ourselves that question, or at least I have, and I go through that, say, what am I here for? What am I really supposed to be doing? How can I help people? How can I empower individuals to make that change, to find the courage to say no, or to find the courage to say yes, and to, as I gave an analogy of, in one of my classes, a meeting is that you're standing at the edge of a cliff. You can either I'm not telling people to jump off the cliff, but it's a safe cliff. But you have this fear, right? So you're standing at the edge of a cliff. You can either go off the edge of it and then be free, find what you want in your life, or you can stay on that edge and then be fearful all your life. So basically, if you're trying to find your life purpose, why am I here? The question is, what can I contribute to society? What's going to give me the feel-good feeling that I have?
How do you overcome that fear, though? I guess that's one of the things that I'm going to challenge both of you guys with, is that I know we've talked about this and the fact that people, they know they want to change their life purpose. They know that they need to do this. They know that they need to go out there and create their own goals. But fear still is in the way. How do you get over it? What do you do? What action plan can we give our listeners to give them the empowerment to make a difference?
I can tell you, and this is my own opinion, not Renee's expert opinion here, but, fear or doing something for the first time or change. Come on, nobody likes change. Nobody, except for the guy that's president, or whoever happens to be the president of the company. They don't want change, but everybody else, we want change. My point is that nobody likes change, but I think it's a lot easier to overcome that fear when you have somebody that's helping you or helping you be accountable. For example, going to the gym for the first time. I haven't worked out in 10 years. What's the point? I'm never going to keep up with that. Yeah, but if you walk in by yourself, you may be charged in January. You made your New Year's resolution. We're all ready to go. But how many of you out there have had a workout partner that calls you up and says, hey, it's 5:30. Where are you? Well, I'm tired today. No, you get up here. I mean, that's why we have physical trainers to begin with. If everybody could do it on their own, there wouldn't be a need of it. I think there is such, when you have that support system, or if you have that somebody that's helping you keep accountable, like a coach or like a sister or a wife, a spouse, somebody that's keeping you accountable, I think it's a very easy, I don't want to say easy, I think it will help you overcome that fear when you know you have somebody maybe going through the process with you.
So have an individual as a backup to help you go through the fear process?
Absolutely. Okay. I mean, how many of us have spouses that all three of us have probably come in the house and had a crazy idea or done something crazy, but the fact that she said, okay, honey, if that's the way you want to go, it made us a lot easier to go through that process.
Sure. Renee, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I like Mike's comments there, but for me, it's also feel the fear and do it anyway. It's like, oh, what the heck, go for it. And it's like you won't know until you try it. And so the fear is always something bad's going to happen. I'm going to look stupid, or I'm not going to say the right thing, or I don't have the education. It's all this self-talk that goes into a person's head that can really just paralyze them from making that move, whether they say, I don't have the qualifications for a job. There's so many people that have gone to interviews without a college degree or having a background in that certain profession and get hired. And they're like, oh, my gosh, I just got hired. Mike and I just spoke to someone recently that shared a similar story about that. She ended up getting a job without having the education in a certain position. And I thought that was the neatest thing. She had all this confidence that she had the skills to do it. And so a lot of the times I think people need to understand that they can do more than they think they can. That's just really the key. We all get stuck.
Don't let anybody determine your worth.
Exactly.
You determine your worth.
Exactly. And I think you have to just take that first step, and then they can take the first step and realize, hey, nothing bad happened to me. And if someone says, oh, they make a comment about you, don't worry about it. Somebody else's opinion is none of your business.
Sure. Well, and you guys brought up a very good point, and that is throughout this whole process, there are no right and wrong answers, but the real key process is taking control and taking that first step. So,
exactly.
Absolutely. The one thing that I don't want to get off topic here, but you're talking about the life purpose, but with me, I see it all the time with people wanting to start to get back in investing, or we've had this question even emailed us to the show is, Mike, I've got all my money in cash right now. What do I do? And again, I challenge a listener. I can't get into specifics on the air, but email those questions. I'll be more than happy to give you some ideas to look at things. But we have that fear all the time of people, well, I don't want to put all my money in the stock market. Or, Mike, I like your ideas of maybe changing. How do I take advantage of rising oil prices? Are you invested to take advantage of that? I know it's hurting me. I drive a truck. But there are things out there that are different than just the stock market and bond, but they have these fears that they need to get out there and they need to take that first step to go. So I challenge the listeners to email us with any specific question that you may have, because that's what this show is for. We'll do our best to answer them on air, but please email us some questions or call in, and we'll be more than happy to answer those for them.
I had a young lady who just called in, and unfortunately she called in on the wrong line, or I picked it up actually on the wrong line. She's going to call us back here in 2 minutes. But before we go to break, Mike, you had something else you wanted to mention about an upcoming seminar that you had, or some upcoming information that you'd like our listeners to know about too.
Actually, I'm not as fancy as a seminar. This is just a little 1-hour workshop, but this is something I'm a big believer in. Most people don't know, but 75 to 78% of all Americans, their biggest part of retirement income comes from Social Security. But yet, how many of us that have gone to college, how many of us remember taking that class that said, hey, this is how Social Security works and this is what you need to know ins and outs? I guarantee you will when you're 65. So I went to Utah, studied the ins and outs. I'm having an expert coming in. We're going to be doing a workshop called Unlocking the Truths About Social Security on March 22nd and March 29th at the Midlothian Navarra College campus. The college is helping me put it on. It's from 6:30 to 7:30. It's free to the public because I think this is something everybody needs to know. And we're going to talk about how a married couple can maximize benefits during retirement, tax strategies to keep your Social Security benefits from being taxed. We even give you a worksheet that you can take home that determines what is the perfect age based on your income needs to start Social Security. A very helpful class. Again, March 22nd, March 29th, 6:30 to 7:30. Call 800-333-3030 to register.
Fantastic. Thank you. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back, listeners. We have a lady on line 1. Can you identify yourself, please? Hello? Hello? Did I lose you?
I hear her, Jim.
You do?
I hear something, but it's very faint.
Hello? Oh, let's try that. Hello? I'm trying all
this is what it sounds like when I call my grandmother to wish her happy birthday.
Well, yeah, this is one of those things where just
live radio.
Live radio, and we can't get her on. I'm not sure what button here. I hit telephone twice. Hello? Oh, let me get her on the line, guys, and we'll get her right back. 1 second.
All righty.
Well, I think going back to your comment about purpose, spend their money on purpose, Mike, is that's certainly an important piece about finding your life purpose. Because it's about contribution.
Hello?
Okay. Well, as you can hear us, listeners, we're having fun with phones today. This is Mike Hill. Anyway, where we're going to go back to is right now with finding your life purpose, Renee. We've gone over the fears, how to kind of almost try to overcome those fears. But when interacting with others that support and inspire you, what is something you would tell a listener out there, Renee, that they should be looking for when they're trying to find that life purpose? What is something that they really should have their antenna up for that tells them maybe that's something that I should follow?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. I think one of the things that the listeners should understand is that when they do start finding that life purpose or just something that really resonates within their soul, deep in their soul, as I mentioned, things just start showing up for them. I mean, just little particular signs or circumstances and synchronicities is what I like to call them, because there's several of my friends through the Camp Build organization that we've talked about all these synchronicities of events that happen, and you start planning a workshop, or you start planning your business, and things just start showing up for you. And you're like, wow, if I had never taken that step to try to start that business, I would have never met this person who had the finances to help me with this business, or never met the financial planner to help me start saving the money, or tell me to get into a budget. And so those are the types of purpose things or events that can happen. It's like a combination. You have the key and the combination. You have the combination to the lock.
Hi, is our listener on the line?
I am.
I'm sorry about that. We had a technical glitch here. I hit the wrong button. Can you give us your name and your question for Mike?
Sure. First of all, I'm really enjoying the show today. My name is Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine.
And I'm calling to ask if Mike could talk about the balance between saving for retirement and helping kids and grandkids with college.
The balance between saving, real quick, Catherine, the balance between saving between retirement and helping the kids and grandkids for college.
Right, because there's a popular financial advisor who really kind of makes it sound like you shouldn't help your kids with college, but I think I don't know, I'd like your input on that.
Okay, well, the first thing I would make sure of, Catherine, is, if that's okay, thank you for calling in. The first thing I would make sure of is look at your own retirement income plan first. Because as much as I want to help out with the kids, and as somebody that has 2 daughters and 6 nieces of his own, I definitely don't want to spare, because you can't go back to work at 71, 72, 75 as you can right now while you're maybe in your earning years, Catherine. So that would be the first thing. If you're on course for your retirement income plan, then absolutely. I happen to be 100% opposite of what that financial planner said. Now, it is, to each person has their specific, what they want to do with their legacy. But I think when you have over $1 trillion in student loan debt right now in the United States, I mean, of course you encourage them to go out and get as many scholarships, et cetera, as you can. But if you have a means, it's not like even when I went to school at A&M where it was $3,000 a semester. I mean, that's my point, is it's definitely, you are investing in your legacy, if you will, by helping your kids and grandkids. Now, I don't say do that to sacrifice your own goodwill, but again, that's really a person-by-person thing. But when I work with the client, that's one thing I ask them is, do you want to leave a legacy? And if that client says no, I don't care. When I die, I want everything. I want to go into a coffin and be done. Anyway, Catherine, I don't know if that...
Catherine, let me ask you, if you don't mind telling us, how old are your children?
They are 30 and 34.
Okay.
One of them has gone back to school, and then I have grandchildren that in a couple of years, my oldest grandchild will be going to college.
And you're still helping out the 30 and 34-year-old?
Sort of, yes.
Sort of.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Well, and I think the reason those questions are kind of important is when you go to begin to... through the financial planning process, it's all about where you are in your life, where your children are in theirs, and then ultimately where those dollars are going to get the biggest return, I would assume. Is that right, Mike?
Absolutely, but it's also it's an emotional thing. I mean, let's be honest. I can give her all the 2 + 2 = 4 kind of financial here, but Catherine, it sounds like, God bless you, this is very important to you already. And if this is something that is important to you, to make sure that your grandchild has, and even your children have, a better quote-unquote future by investing in their education, then who am I to tell you that you can't invest that way or you can't do that for them? My only caveat is to make sure that you have enough income support for your retirement. If you have not done a retirement income budget, that is the first and foremost thing I would please ask you to do. And what I mean by that is, how do you know how much you need to live on when you are retired if you're not already?
Right.
And so that would tell me, because if your budget comes out that says, for example, you can receive $4,000 a year, that's your expenses, and you're bringing in $5,000, you're fine. But if I looked at that budget, I know it sounds simple, Catherine, but I saw that budget and it said that your expenses were $4,000 and you're only bringing in $3,500 with Social Security and everything else. You are cutting off your nose to spite your face for the expense of your children, and God bless you for it. But again, don't sacrifice 25 to 30 more years of life for education. You can help her out in a smaller way. Renee has actually had a good question here.
Hey, Catherine, this is Renee.
Hi.
One of the questions I have, is this one of your goals, is to help your children?
Yes.
Okay.
See, I think that's one of the things, Catherine, is we get into this show. It's not just all about the financial goal. It's also about the personal goal. And if you've set the personal goal to help your children out, and that's going to create fulfillment in your life, then that's where this whole situation between money and life purpose has to be in a balance. And that's where both of these guys can really help you out in the long haul in terms of trying to set those and create that balancing act that we all go through.
Sure. I think, if it's one of her goals, like she just mentioned, and it is, I think it's important that she evaluate that, and like she's asking Mike the questions. That's the hard fact of being able to find out what's good, what's best for her. But, I like that. I like the idea that that's one of her goals, that she wants to help her children. For me to say, yeah, just go for it, I'm not going to say that. But, it's just one of those things that you need to evaluate it. But I like that.
And I don't want to put Catherine on a spot. But, again, this show is to help people. Have you done any kind of budget or income budget as far as for retirement, Catherine?
Well, I've kind of played around with it, but I guess that's my next question I know I need to do that. And are you going to touch on that at the conference in Midlothian? Or?
Absolutely. Well, that one's going to be more about Social Security, the ins and outs, because there's so many things that people don't know about how to avoid the taxes on it, et cetera, et cetera. That's why I'm excited about that. But, Catherine, we talked about budgeting on the show a couple of weeks ago. I actually have in my office, I do this for every client that comes in, a 4 to 5 page retirement income budget planner. Now, again, I've done it myself. It'll take you about an hour and a half to fill out. I want to offer it not only to Catherine, but I've offered it, maybe I need to do it every week. I'll offer it to any listener of the show. And when we get off, if you want to give Jim your address, I'll be more than happy to get that out to you, or you can email the show and we can get it out to you. But it is so helpful because it's actually a budget that Fidelity has put together, and it uses their software. And normally, if you walked into a Fidelity's office, this thing costs you $150 to $200 to get this analysis done. We're going to give it. You fill it out, send it in. We'll have the computer spit out the results, and if you want to sit down with us to talk about it, great. If not, it's yours to keep forever.
Catherine,
thank you.
Do you have email?
I do.
Simplest thing to do is, if you don't mind, just dropping us your email address at info@kbec.com, or when you go onto the web page at www.kbec.com, on the left-hand side of our web page, you'll see a little bar that'll say the Success Guys. Click on that, send us your email, and then we'll make sure Mike gets that off to you.
Thanks so much. Well, I appreciate all your help.
Hey, thank you. And I apologize for the technical difficulty. I flunked broadcast school here. Apologize for that.
Thank you for the call.
Have a great day. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Well, guys, first call. That's always fun to have. I apologize for all the glitches in there. We're got about 5 minutes to wrap up the show here, and we need to get to this last question. What happens when you get closer to your life purpose? What happens when you bring this whole thing together, Renee, and make it into to a positive?
I think people have this euphoria of just, having their hearts singing, and it just really shows up. Things just show up for them. I think they are in tune with life, just loving life, and people want to be able to get up every day. It's just people are just so happy, and I hear story after story when I've gone to so many seminars, and people were just in dead-end jobs or just dead-end whatever they were, and they come out and say, God, I was able to face the fear, start this new job, or start this new career, or start this community project, or start helping someone, and just feeling that void. I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and she's wanting to do some things with Habitat for Humanity. And so I said, what's stopping you? She says, fear. And so we talked through some things, which I won't talk about on the air, but, some things that, there's real things out there that people, where there's fear, but you got to push past it. And some of it could be just some support from friends or spouses of that type of thing. But, that was one of her dreams, is to help out with Habitat for Humanity. And so, again, that could be the purpose piece of finding your life purpose.
How do you get over that money energy drain?
Well, we've hit it on it a couple of times. Debt definitely is the biggest one, the biggest money drain. As a matter of fact, this flies in, as people who listen to the show, especially in how I invest, this flies in the face of conventional wisdom. But if you have a chance to pay off your house before you retire, I would like to hope that's a goal for all my listeners, because if you're 65 and still having to pay a mortgage payment, things happen. Emergencies happen. Life gets in the way. Sickness happens. Don't leave a burden like that to your loved ones. That should be a major goal. Now, again, as we heard, I'm not wanting you to take money out of your IRA to pay for that house off. But if you're 50 years old right now, you're 10, 15 years away from retirement, and your kids are out of school. God bless you, Catherine. If your kids are out of school, maybe we start allocating more funds to the mortgage. And I understand mortgage rates are at 3.75, and that's hard for me to ask people to do. But when you retire, your house, for example, is no longer it's no longer an asset. It's a place over your head. That's what the house should be. And that's why I was kind of tying in with the show, when we got to get over those fears and things that we could do to help us do that.
I think both of you, too, brought up a very good point with Catherine, and that is every person's situation is unique to that individual. Catherine had a 34 and a 30-year-old. She had grandchildren out there. It's understanding what's behind that person's question that becomes very important. And as you write in, listeners, at info@kbec.com, the more information you're willing to share with Renee and Mike, the better off their answers are going to be able to help generate direction in your life. So I know a lot of the issues that we talk about are sensitive. We're talking about people that may not have a life purpose, really don't know what goal is. They've gone through life and are out there and maybe at wit's end even. But you got to start someplace. And these two gentlemen are kind enough to provide you the time and their energy and their expertise. And I would encourage you to take advantage of that at info@kbec.com with your questions. And they'll get back to you in a very confidential manner. We're not here to, expose anybody or belittle or berate any of them. And I think that's one of the things you guys shared with me early on, too.
Yes.
The questions that you have asked, there are no right and wrong answers.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I just want, that's what the calls that I'm looking for, the emails that I'm looking for. Be specific. You have this chance. I will get back to you. I will answer your question, but be specific. You know how many questions I'm getting on how do you take advantage of oil investing? I can't go into detail on this radio show because this radio show is more of a bigger thing, but there are things out there. I mean, think infrastructure. I'll just leave it with that. But infrastructure with oil and gas is huge, and that's a great way. But these are the kind of questions I want to hear. Mike, do you think gold's too high? I'll answer it. You may not agree with but I'll give you support to my reasoning. So anyway, I want you to get very specific, emailers and callers, please.
To that end, next week, we're actually going to be doing this show at the Lifestyle Expo at Waxahachie Civic Center. I want to encourage everybody to come out to that show. KBEC will actually be out there live and in person from 10 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, Mike and Renee will be in the booth taking your questions, answering those things that are on your mind as it relates to setting your life goals, setting your purpose goals, and going forward. To that end, guys, got anything you want to wrap up here in the last couple of minutes?
Well, hey, Jim, I appreciate it. And I thank Catherine for the call. And I really was glad that when I asked her about it, that's a goal of hers, is that, I don't know what kind of feedback she's getting from her friends or neighbors or, any other person out there. But, again, it could be one of those dream stealers and say, hey, this may be something that she's been wanting to do for a long time. And, sometimes you have to take that step. So, again, I encourage listeners to call in that workshop that I have coming up. I think that would be able to answer quite a few questions for people wanting to change their lives.
In both of those workshops, you can get more information or to sign up for Renee's or Mike's at 1-800-333-3030. And if for whatever reason you don't have a way to write down those phone numbers or whatever, you can always find out that information at info@kbec.com or give us a call here at KBEC. Mike?
I would just like to stress to the listeners, the way that I'm helping people now is I'm definitely investing more with alternative investments. I'm definitely copying the endowment plans. That's where I'm different. That's where I'm outside of your typical financial planner box. And the only way that I could illustrate that point is for people to maybe order, and I'd be more than willing to give this to your listeners as well. It's my white paper that I wrote that's called Income in Uncertain Times, and it's kind of ironic, but the underlying of it is 7 strategies for an all-weather income portfolio, which it seems like we always get in Texas. But again, that's Income in Uncertain Times.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And listeners, look forward to your comments and questions next week. We are out of here.
You've been listening to Life and Money Matters with the Success Guys on 1390 KBEC. Mike Hill is a registered representative of and securities offered through Berthel Fisher and Company Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Hill & Associates Wealth Management Advisors is independent of BFCFS. The interpretations and organizations of these ideas are the confidential thoughts of Mike Hill and do not represent the opinions of Berthel Fisher and Company Financial Services.